How's it going, YouTube and my future self? Welcome back to the Lab TCG. My name is Will, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of a story time. Now, today's story time is actually of a story from back in January of 2022. December 31st to about January 25th is the timeline of this. The whole situation took about 25 days, and it is about the time that I severely disappointed a customer. Now, the situation was remedied, and I ended up making it right, but I wanted to talk about this situation now that several months have passed, and kind of let you guys in on how I conduct business and how I was able to kind of remedy a situation that was really bad. Now, this story itself, during the time, I was extremely stressed out, not only because this was one of the first customers that I'd ever basically attracted naturally through social media, but it just felt terrible messaging back and forth, consistently having the person say that they were disappointed with their experience, which is not at all the aim of my business. I'm trying to create value for customers and, deliver smiles when it comes to products or packages or selling cards. So, want to shed some light on this story. If you are the person that this is about and you're watching this video, again, I really apologize for everything that happened. But on this YouTube channel, I want to document my journey as a business owner, especially in the Pokemon business realm, and I felt like this would be a good video to upload so that the viewers can take away from my experiences. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the video, and if you stay to the end, you're going to see exactly how I handled this situation that involved about 14,000 bulk cards. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the story. So as you guys probably know, this channel has been around since November. At the start of this channel, I was mainly posting more on Instagram and TikTok. I wasn't doing as much YouTube, and then that kind of shifted. So on my Instagram, I had attracted about 100 followers, and I had mentioned on my Instagram that you could go visit the link in my bio to take you to the website, and the website has the ability to purchase bulk. Now on YouTube, I talk about purchasing bulk, but if you guys don't know, on my website, thelabtcg.com, there's a tab that says sell us your bulk, and you can submit a form on there that has the amount of bulk you have to, and you want to sell, and you can send it to me, basically for me to purchase it off you. Now, this form, it basically is saying that the bulk must arrive near mint. You can send it without any update from me. It has to be near mint. It can be broken down into rates or all one flat rate, and it has a bunch of different requirements plus some recommendations as to how you should package this bulk. So if you're a customer, you could go on my website, and if you're looking to sell bulk cards, you can go onto that tab and basically just fill out the information you have. You don't need any approval from me, and you just send the bulk to me. Now, it's extremely important for me as a seller that bulk arrives to me in near mint condition, because what I mainly do with bulk is I resell it on Amazon or eBay or locally as bulk lots. And people that are buying these bulk lots do not want to get damaged cards. They're basically purchasing them with the intention of getting nice new cards. So when I say the bulk cards must be near mint, it's extremely important that they're near mint, because I can't sell lightly played cards. Otherwise, I'm just asking for negative feedback on the platforms that I sell on. So it is stressed on that form that the cards must be near mint and they must arrive that way. Otherwise, if they don't, I can dispose of the cards for free, or I can send them back at your expense, the customer's expense. Now, why that's important is because if I'm the one that is paying money to have those cards shipped back, I am basically losing money on that transaction, especially if none of the stuff is salvageable. Then I'm going negative on just someone going onto my site and submitting a form. Now, in many ways, that's the cost of doing business, but that is how most people that buy bulk have their rates and their forms set up. So I follow the same, and it makes sense for my business. Now, all this detail is important because it plays into the story that we're about to get into. So essentially, on Instagram, someone had come to my site and submitted bulk. Now, this is one of their first time submitting bulk, I believe, and they had reached out via form, and I went ahead and reached out to them via email. I said, hey, thank you so much for submitting the bulk. Looking forward to getting all of it and going through it and then paying that person out. Long story short, a couple weeks went by, and then they ended up sending all this bulk. Now, one of the issues is that they had sent me photos of how they had packaged the bulk, and this is complete oversight on my side. Now I have specific requirements as to how I want that bulk sent to me from this experience. Basically, it was a USPS large flat rate box with bubble wrap along the sides, and then the bulk itself was wrapped with a single paper band, essentially. So not the entire thing covered in paper, but just like a band holding the cards together, and they're completely stacked. Now, I am the one that okayed on this being shipped to me. I didn't know that it would become an issue. And essentially, the issue is that those cards, since they're not completely wrapped, it's just part of them, they would rub against each other in transit. And this just completely scuffs all the cards and makes them not near mint. You can't sell the cards with edgeware. You could classify them as lightly played, moderately played, but they definitely don't pass as near mint. So part of this entire situation is my fault because I okayed this customer to send me these boxes, and it was a complete miss on my part. But those all the boxes, was about 13,800 cards, was sent to me in 3 flat rate boxes. And when I got the first one, the box not only was super scuffed up, lots of damage on the sides. If you've ever bought bulk online, you will notice that USPS doesn't necessarily handle flat rate boxes the best, especially when these boxes are like 50 pounds full of Pokemon cards. You have tons of stuff moving around in them, and they're changing hands over and over and over again as they're going through different processing centers. But essentially the box arrived damaged. There were scuffs in the box. There was tape all around it, keeping it all secure. And when I went to open it, basically verify it, I record all the openings of bulk with a GoPro, just so that I have evidence if I need it, saying that this stuff arrived damaged. When I opened it with the GoPro, most of the cards on top had kind of shifted around. Some of those bands had been broken. And as I started to inspect them, I started to realize that a lot of the cards had edgeware on them. And the edgeware, ranged from a little bit minor, maybe a few nicks on the card that would move it from more that near mint to lightly played, or heavily played, heavily damaged, lots of edgeware. And you got to be thinking these are stacks of cards that were just kind of placed together, and moving around. They just kind of like rubbed against each other the entire time in transit. So that's what kind of led to all of that. Now, on the first box, only 1,080 out of about 6,000 cards were salvageable. Now, when I told this to the customer, I reached out to them and I said, "Hey, I got the first box today. This is how it arrived." I sent them pictures and stuff. Only about 1,000 of these cards are salvageable based on how they were sent. And I basically said, "Look, I can't pay for the remaining amount of these cards. I can send them back at your expense, or I can dispose of them." And as a buyer, that is what I need to do to protect myself. But as the seller of the bulk, you can only be upset at that situation, right? You definitely do not want to hear that the bulk that you spent $20, $30 to ship somewhere to a business that you trusted, and they're coming back to you and saying that everything was damaged except for a small amount. So I completely understand the other side of this story, and that's partially what made me feel terrible about it. Is like someone trusted my business, and then it's going to go bad. This entire deal is just going to fold because of transit, basically. And the customer came back to me stating that they were extremely disappointed. They are surprised that everything kind of arrived that way, that boxes basically went through the gutter, like going through USPS. So it was a little bit of that, and then at the same time, there's a bit of skepticism. Now, this customer figured that since I run a bulk business, I might be selling these singles. So, and this is completely true. I could have done this. If you were to take those cards, you could still list them as lightly played on TCGPlayer, and they completely pass. Now, that's not what my bulk business is, and I explained that to them. But there is skepticism there, because although I'm saying these cards are no longer near mint, I could still sell them as lightly played, moderately played, whatever. So a completely valid point, and I completely understand the skepticism there. But so the first box, only 1,000 cards were salvageable, basically, and I offered to pay for those cards. The other 2 boxes ended up getting delayed, and then they arrived a few days later. And not to anyone's surprise, those boxes were in the same condition as the first one. The cards had been strewn about, most of them had edgeware, and out of all that stuff, only about 7,000 of the total 3 boxes of bulk were salvageable out of 13,800 cards. So, a little bit over half was salvageable, and, that's terrible, right? If you're expecting $600 in bulk to be given to you and you get 300, no one's going to be happy with that situation. So I stressed multiple times to the customer that I was sorry and sympathetic about the situation. And that's definitely something I've learned, is like, you need to show empathy at all costs, because it's not a good situation for either party, because I'm going to end up losing money on this just because the way I made it right, or time and all that stuff. And then of course on the customer side, it's not great because they trusted you with your business, and then they're going to get a negative experience out of it. So overall, a terrible situation. Additionally, when I was sending photos of the bulk, you guys know that I use 5,000 count boxes. I had place the bulk in those 5,000 count boxes to kind of like make them organized instead of just having a bunch of bulk around. And I had sent a photo of that to the customer, and he saw that as me listing the inventory, putting it in a box, and taking a photo of it. So that added to the skepticism that I was, listing stuff as lightly played, moderately played, all that stuff. So essentially, the customer said that he couldn't recommend me to anyone and wouldn't trust the situation unless he saw all 14,000 cards destroyed or they were shipped back to him at my expense. Now, originally I was like, okay, well, I'll just destroy them because I have no intention of selling them. And then I thought, that's probably not the best method. They said that they would sleep on that. They weren't quite sure. They might be willing to pay for it to come back. And, it kind of determined to me, like, if I was the person that was on the receiving end of this, how would I want this to be remedied? And the simple answer was to be paid out for everything that was salvageable and then get the rest shipped back at the business's expense. So that's what I ended up doing. Like I said, I was extremely sympathetic to the situation. I felt terrible about this entire situation as a whole, and I ended up paying, $60 to ship everything back. So, about break even on the transaction after everything was said and done. The customer ended up saying that action made it even in his book, but overall, I was extremely stressed over the time of this. It was not fun, and I kind of referenced that in some of the older videos that are on this channel from this time period. So, if you're going through something like this, try and think of both sides. Additionally, something that I learned is it's better to wait 24 hours if you feel extremely emotional about a situation, because a lot of the times if you are super stuck in your emotions, you're going to end up making a situation worse than it actually is. So it's very important to have a clear head and kind of like just let the situation ease a little bit. But at the same time, that isn't to be said like leaving customers on red for 48 hours. Just don't do that. But, if you need time to kind of settle down, get a clear level head, take the 24 hours. Trust me, it's totally worth it. So that's this situation that occurred. It ended up being a wash. Everything was sent back. But some of my recommendations for you guys, if you ever have customers that are saying that items were damaged in transit or they're missing or whatever, definitely hear their side out. Try and reason with them. Come to a situation that benefits both parties if possible, makes a win-win on either side. Or at least makes it even. And then, like I said, if you get emotional about the situation, definitely take some time to let it cool off and go from there. Remember, you are a business. You are having customers come to you and trust you. So it's extremely important that you try and keep that trust at all costs, especially if you are in business with the intention of doing good business. There are only more negative consequences that can come from you handling a situation poorly than positive ones. Defamation is one of them that could be huge. If you treat a situation poorly and then all of a sudden people are posting about your business online in a negative light, you've basically just killed your brand. So it's extremely important that you are customer focused and at the forefront, you're remedying this situation. So as you are selling on TCGPlayer and you are having people that get upset because your inventory was wrong or cards are missing from orders, try and think about what you would want to hear as the customer. Here's a full refund. I'm so sorry that this happened, whatnot. But going to start wrapping up the video here. In the links on my website, there are links to templates that you can utilize for eBay messages or TCGPlayer messages if you need to refund someone. Those templates are really great because if you are missing a card on TCGPlayer or something, you can copy paste that, change the customer name part, and then send that and refund them. I haven't had any issues with it, and I've actually been pretty fortunate. I haven't had a lot of issues outside of like being scammed or whatnot. Situations like this is one of the only times I've had something like this. But, it's the cost of doing business. This stuff does happen, and it will happen to you if you stay with it long term. So hopefully this story gave you guys some insight into a different side of the business, not something as positive that we've talked about on the selling side. But overall, I think it was important to get out. And like I said, if you do happen to be watching this, the person I'm talking about, really sorry for everything. Thank you so much for working it out with me. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any comments or critiques how I handled the situation, feel free to comment it in the description below. As always, you can reach me at thelabtcg@gmail.com if you have any questions. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good night.